All right, guys, welcome back to the Stephen Cheevers Mind Trip. Today, I've got on who's basically my wife, Tony the Wolf McAleavey. Thanks for coming on, mate.
More than welcome. Better
Appreciate
looking than any wife you'll have in a while, but got each other, so that's the main thing. We're all right. Like.
Hopefully not. But so, look, on the off chance that somebody doesn't know who you are, which right now is very fucking unlikely, give us a background on who is Tony McAleavey. You know, give us the full sort of picture of like how did you get started? Who is Tony McAleavey, basically? Not the Wolf. We'll get into the Wolf later.
Yeah, spot on. Straightforward. So Tony, for me, family first, gym second, and then everything else falls in line. Sounds a bit odd, but that's pretty much like how I'm based. I think when people ask me, like, tell me who you are, I'm like, I don't know who I am. So this is a very nervous question. I'm always like, just take me as you see me. But that's literally it. Like when you break me down to like a minute level, it's usually just them three things: family, the gym, business, and helping people. And that's literally it. That's all that, to me, everything else is just like meh. So it's just like, that's all that matters. But from that basis, and then from a getting started, like, it depends when you want to go back to. Do you want to go back to like the start of fitness? Do you want to go back to childhood? Like you steer and
I want to go back to, so obviously I met you early 20s. You were still in the fire service. You were getting your online coaching going. What I'd love to go back to is like, what was the moment that you decided to get into fitness? Like, when did that become your passion? And then what was that journey from fitness, fire service, to then actually becoming a coach?
Yes, sweet. So what got me into fitness straight off the bat was insecurities and the fact I thought abs would get you women. For anybody that's watching, does not get you women, gets you more men in your DMs asking you how to get abs to
like
get
me.
women. Yeah, so like, note to self, it's not, if you want women, get lots of money. Sort of.
That's my tactic.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's not going well so far. Yeah, so got in and out of them reasons. Like, I didn't know it at the time. I just assumed I got a lot of pain out of like initial girls with date and thought that was the reason, because it couldn't have been anything else. Couldn't have been my conversation skills or anything. So it automatically had to be the fact I didn't have abs. So I pretty much got completely obsessed with the idea of like, I need to be in better shape. I had no clue. Like back then, like we're talking 13 years ago now, like the only thing I had was like, do you know the big motherfucking book of Arnold's Encyclopedia?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. Like, this is all I need. And 8-minute abs on YouTube. And I just used to go into my garage and blitz 8-minute abs for like 5 rounds. So I'd be in there hitting 40 minutes abs after school every day. And like, I had no discipline before this. Like, I was like, one stage I had tits, one minute I was skinny. Like, I've been every shape, like everything, beanbag on legs, you name it. I've been there, like up, down. So then eventually I got abs, got in shape, started getting like more female attention. That sort of probably fed it a bit. But what I actually realized now looking back is the only reason it got me more of what I initially wanted was because I got confidence, because I assumed that's what people wanted and now I had it.
Yeah.
So it was like a false sense. So that led me into fitness. I would say I've sorted out my insecurities, but I would be lying. And they still fuel me. And pretty much the breakdown of it is then that led to me getting in shape. And then I had a friend who ended up with like he had a girlfriend who pretty much dumped him, and there was a load of issues and stuff. So I got him in shape. And then he posted the photos, not me. And they'd done really well on Facebook at the time, like a couple thousand likes, but this is like 10 years ago now, maybe more. And then I just had people in my DMs asking me, will you coach me? I'll pay you X, I'll pay you this. So then I was like, I don't want any clients. Like, this is insane. So then I was like, I'll take on one more person to help them. So I took the person with the biggest sob story.
Yeah.
And then helped them and just repeated this and done that for like 6-12 months. And then it just started like snowballing because everybody was turning out like a freak.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of that, like I was finishing uni and I had applied for the fire service, got in there. And like, I was like, no, the fire service is what I want to do. And within a year within the fire service, like the fitness business had grown like to a stage where I was like, I cannot cope with the people messaging me. Like my DMs are like, even though I only had like 2,000 followers, but I was getting DMs from people who didn't even follow me on Facebook, like 100 a week, like being like, I'll give you 600 quid for, I'll give you, it was just overwhelming. So then eventually it got to the stage of I had the choice of, do I stick with what I know is safe with a fire service with a 50-year job in Belfast? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I fucking loved it. Or do I like roll the dice and go for the fucker? And I was like, I would have been happy in either or content, but I was like, I'll always kick myself because I know where this path goes. I like the idea of like, oh, I'd rather end up homeless, but be like, I went for it. Like, So that's maybe how that transition happened from like fitness to firefighting to coach as like a quick prospect, if that makes sense. If there's any want to dive into.
No, so whenever you were finishing uni, you went to uni to do sports and exercise, right?
Yeah, sport and exercise.
Yeah, and you've always said like complete waste of time.
Yeah, to me, it's just like pissing a wally. But I feel like unless your degree, and I'll get people like, oh fuck, I'll get abused for this. But like, I feel like unless your degree is like a doctor, like you're doing medicine to be a doctor, I'm like
lawyer,
good degree with a specific job, but like doing like a very vague job like sport and exercise, like do teaching if you want to teach, do physiotherapy if you want to be a physio. I feel like my degree was very like open ended with like 100 people in it, so I was like, you're getting like 400 grand a year here, for teaching us like random parts of other topics. I just felt like the main thing I got from it was one, it developed university as a whole develops me as a person.
Yeah.
Like partying, drinking, all that actually does develop you, I feel, to an extent. And I also learned how to critically review research, which that is the main thing that I actually was like, that is a benefit. But I'm wondering, like, I probably could have got that anyway rather than a lot of debt.
Yeah. The thing with university, like I didn't go to uni, and when I was going through 6th year, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But when it came time to like university, all that type of stuff, I was just like, fuck, it just feels like a waste of time. Like, I would have went and done like a business degree, and I would have been, like you said, generic, vague. What would you have done with it?
But it's like a natural next step now. Like, I didn't feel like there was any it was either full-time work, and I wasn't ready for the fire service. I would have been full-time working in my local pool, like lifeguarding, or go to university. And I was like, I'm not ready to stop fucking about with my life yet. So I was like, university makes a natural step. It's debt, but I don't see that now. It's like, I'll worry about that in 10 years' time. It's not real. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that, 1, support, 2, the cop on, and maybe 3, the actual like the balance to have FOMO and miss out like that university experience that a lot of people are worried about missing. And for me, don't get me wrong, it was good and there is development in it, but I feel like you never know where it would have went without that. But there's a reason, like whenever you look at the statistics of like what is shrinking and what is growing, like formal education is technically on the shrink now, if I'm correct, like the decrease. And courses, mentorships like ours are on the rapid increase. That's why there's so many businesses in that sense getting involved, like e-learning courses. You'll see school with promote, all these things built in, because as that market shrinks, something else has to fucking take the income of it. So people still want to make money, they want to learn, but they're realizing there's quicker ways to learn and to get to that higher percentage income bracket. Like I think to make like $1 million a year, like, which doesn't seem like it sounds ridiculous. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of money to maybe me and you now. It seems like astronomical when you're younger, but to get in that, I think like you're in the 0.5% of earners in the UK or something. It's something ridiculously small. And like now that's so realistic for a course, but it's like as soon as you do a university degree, not all the time, but, and I'm not bashing, there's nothing wrong with it as long as money's not your main focus, but like immediately you put a cap
on what you're gonna earn.
Yeah, like it's like, teacher, what's your wage going to be? Principal in the UK and Northern Ireland, maybe like 60, 70,000.
Yeah.
Big school, maybe 150K. That's sweet. That's a really good wage. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you were like, I want to make like a lot, I don't want to have a ceiling.
Yeah.
Like you go in and you could be fucking trading stocks, you could be doing crypto, you could be doing fucking copywriting, but you're starting with 0 and you might only get to 20K a month, but you could get to 300K a month. It's hard to know. I feel like that's why I feel like people sense the opportunity now and they see more of it because there wasn't as much social media back in our, like when me and you were growing up.
Whenever we were going through like that, like I think about the money. If I was now 18 doing this all again, if there'd have been TikTok, if there'd have been Instagram, if there'd have been all this online type of stuff, like for me right now, if I was 16 and I was thinking like, what am I going to do next? I'd be like, I need to get into something to do with social media, some kind of course, some kind of selling something online, because that's where the big money is. And even like Jordan Peterson's obviously picked up on that. He's launched his own university because he wants to, like you said, rival universities that are charging crazy money and instead have courses on specific subjects that you can just buy and learn and develop. So yeah, the university thing, actually, I was in that wedding in Greece last week, and everybody there, all making good money, all sort of like GPs, doctors, different things like that. But like you said, they went to uni for that specific reason. But even like a great job, like a doctor or GP or anything, it's still a capped income. Unless you go completely private.
Unless you own it, yeah.
Yeah, unless you own the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it still only gets so far. So university degree now, as you said, does cap the income, because if you go and do a business degree, chances are you're going to do, if in Northern Ireland, you're going to do a 30, 40K a year, 50K a year job, right? Lawyer, you're maybe getting into the 6 figures, things like that. But if you're doing like fucking sociology or some random degree like that, the money's not there. So the money now is in the online coaching space.
or whatever, e-commerce, your
Crypto,
mentoring,
yeah.
A lot of the time it's almost like a pipeline. Like once you reach like not the top, but once you reach a certain level in that field, you can then teach it, and that's where the money just moves up. That's why people move into that.
Well, that's what everybody almost does now. It's like they become good at something like e-commerce, and then the next logical step is I'm going to teach everybody else how to be good at e-commerce instead of sticking at e-commerce. So
same as coaching.
Yeah, and the thing about it, like now the environment of like high ticket selling and stuff like that, like I would have loved to have done that in my early 20s. Instead, like I look at my sales career where I went through retail sales, I went into car sales, I went into corporate sales and things like that. And yeah, I made good money, you know, at a young early 20s. I was doing like 30, 40, 50K years. But now you look at the opportunities you have for salespeople with remote closing, you know, selling high ticket offers, and there's like 20-year-olds making 10K a month sitting in their bedroom doing sales calls all day.
Yeah.
So the opportunity for people now is just so much greater.
Yeah, like I think as well, it depends if like money is your god and like how much of a variable plays in your life. Like there's certain people where it doesn't overly matter as much. So it just depends what you see. I think a lot of people get lured into more money will solve everything whenever it just makes some problems easier to solve, but it gives you different problems then.
Yeah.
Your stress has changed. But I remember like even with the online stuff, like when I started online coaching, like I remember having I had this conversation yesterday because we launched a different thing yesterday, and pretty much it went good, don't get me wrong, but I was like, everything is a slow builder. And then I remember my sister turning to me and was like, you don't remember, but she was like, when you launched, like when you actually were like, I'm now coaching people online, she goes like, people generally laughed at you, like my friends laughed at you being like, you can't coach people online. And people will be like, this is such a common concept now, but 10 years ago that was not common in Ireland or Northern Ireland. Like there's only a handful of people doing it. I remember like I only knew like 4 people doing it in Northern Ireland total, and it was like nobody was making good money. It was just like a side thing.
Yeah.
So like it's hard to know where the next pivot's going. But now, because the thing is as well, even though you're saying about getting into social media now or selling online, the problem is now more people know about it. So also you've got a lot more competition. So you need to have a lot of self-belief, and that is very difficult to get from a young age. Some people have the balls just to be like, well, I've nothing to lose. But a lot of people will not have the actual tenacity to start. And a lot of people, I think now, and this is just this, it's not me, I don't want to think this is about like baiting up normal jobs. It's not like my dad was a manager of a meat plant, loved it, proud for the family, was able to be there. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a case of what you want.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would rather work hard for a couple of years and then have the freedom downtime. But it's one of them things where I think it's just a completely different world. And like the main, not issue, but the main thing that we have of benefit is like we got in a nice time. The newer generation has all these opportunities, but they also think the new generation has is a lot more distraction. Like you can't win if you're 16 because you're too busy on your fucking phone.
Yeah.
Like it's hard enough for us, but I'm like, if you grow up with that addiction, that is so ingrained. And see, when you call it an addiction, people are like, it's not an addiction. I'm like, check your fucking screen time, yeah. It's fucking manic. Mine was manic.
8-9 hours a day on Instagram.
So then like but that's beautiful because then if you have self-belief, you back yourself, like it's like Dana White says, like you will run over everybody else in that generation because they're all like you look around and you're like, Joe, we've got fucking everything that to fucking you say one bad joke on Instagram and you're fucking banned because everybody's a fucking snowflake and a fool. Like I put up a video the other day, like having a joke and it was taken down. It was like Instagram was like, it's flagged this for bullying, racism, blah blah blah. I was like, oh my god, it was a 7-second video and it was a joke. And I was like, you can't actually say anything because you know what? It's offensive, but it's like you found it offensive. It's actually not offensive. You're just a fucking snowflake. If I said this back 10 years ago, people would have laughed. Now it's like, that's hilarious, but I'm gonna ban you. So I feel like the generation's full of like not pussies, but like the majority is full of people that like they've been cotton walled a lot. Like
But I mean, society as a whole now is definitely full of more woke snowflakes that can't handle a joke, can't handle anything. Like even if you look at like, you know, TV 10 to 15 years ago, we were talking about this last week at the wedding, and I can't remember, something came up and it was about Little Britain, and then we started like joking about Little Britain jokes, and we're like, how fucking racist, homophobic, misogynist. It was crazy, but everybody laughed at it. Like even the people that were, you know, the race that was taking the piss out of, like Indians, they laughed at it because it was just like, it was funny, it was good humor. Whereas now you can't joke about any of that because it's like, no, that's racist, you can't say that. And then people get it ingrained in their brain, oh, that is racist, so I need to be offended by it. As opposed to before where they're like, oh, I can take a joke about it.
100%. It's like the same as like we were so far right, now we're so far fucking left. And it's like, you have to actually pull it back a bit now. It's like the joke I made that got banned from me listening is it was actually just a woman saying, ha, 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 you think a man can make you happy? And I go, yo, bitch, give me these ropes. And I just literally go on to everything.
Oh, I've seen that one.
I got that taken down because it was going viral. But the thing is, like, I was like, you're allowed to give men in general shit. Even though it's just a joke. I'm not allowed to be like, yo, bitch, give me them. And it's just like, if you make a joke, you have to take one. It's like, for example, if I see somebody and they'll be like, yo, and they make a joke at me for my height, my skin color, anything like
Yeah.
that. Don't get me wrong. There is a line.
Yeah.
But like I'm talking about if it's general, like the person is generally like he's a comedian, he does funny stuff.
Yeah.
It's like there's that like line. And I feel like there's no line now. It's just like you're completely absurd or you're not. And the funniest thing is that's why like the likes of Tate. That's the way like even the stuff I post now. It gets better now because a lot of people think it.
Yeah.
They just won't say it because they're fucking nervous. And then that's where I feel like the new market is for everyone. It's like, what are you willing to say that like walks the line? Because whenever I post that video and get taken down, the first thing I said is like it got taken down, and I remember me and Joseph talking. He was like, "Whoa, is that going to affect like the page growth?" And I goes, "You live by the sword, you die by the sword." And I was like, "That's the only way you grow." It's exactly the way like all that goes. But it's that fucking is it's
Yeah, that's the stuff that we've always said to clients as well. Is that you can't be beige, you can't be vanilla. You've got to you got to go one way or the other. And I was actually talking to Joseph about this the other day about my own page, and he was saying, what way do you want your page to go? And I was like, because I did a couple of videos that are a wee bit political, a wee bit, certain ways and opinions on, like there was a video about fucking OnlyFans girl, like talking about catching chlamydia and catching another STD. And then I did like, a cut to being like women like this are fucking disgusting. Like you still following women like this, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And he was like that goes a wee bit away from sales and stuff. And I was like, it does go away from sales, but I want the followers on my page to be in that same thought process. Like I want them to think like me. I want them to know where I stand politically. I don't want to like get all these followers that are a bunch of snowflakes. And then the next thing I post up being like, here, Donald Trump, fucking all right guy. And then the next thing they all unfollow. It's like, I want them to know from day one, it's like he sits on this side of the fence.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's one of the things where like I might like something somebody says. Like there's like a really good example. I was like when Donald Trump near got shot.
Yeah.
I was going to put up the picture of him with Joe, like the many men trying to kill
Many
me.
men.
Right, I thought that was hilarious. But then I was like, the amount of unfollows I'm going to get from this from snowflakes, even though I know fuck all about politics in the States, but I was like, it's a funny photo, but I was like, people will take that I am supporting Donald Trump, and I was just like, I was like, Joe, it's just like, it's
bro, I put that photo up on my personal page. It's only got like 1,800 followers. I don't even post content on it really. It's just a personal page, and the DMs I got in that just from people I hadn't heard from in years, no clients or anything like that, but one of the coaches, that works for us and stuff, he goes, you got to be trolling people with this and stuff, and I goes, no, I just find it funny. I goes, if you're a fan of it, like, whatever.
It is. It's one of them things where it's just fucking.
But that shows as well, like just like you said, like how far the pendulum swung that way with like being woke and offended by everything. Because like that photo when they put like Trump like that and they put him onto they made it an album cover and they put 50 Cent Many Men and it was like, that's just funny. Like it's just funny. It's not even like a political statement. It's like that's hilarious. Do you know what I mean?
It's just
the song's funny because it's like about him getting shot. It's like the whole thing's funny. So it's like, how can you not just laugh at what's funny instead of being like, oh, it's to do with Donald Trump, so I can't find it funny. I'm tuned in a way that I can't physically find it funny, because if I find it funny, then I support Trump.
Exactly. It's like the feminist movement. It's actually went that far to that, like
the feminist movement went so far to the point where guys started to cut their dicks off, and then the feminists went, "Oh, hold on a second here." It's like,
and I also think the worst part of that is too, like the actual association of that word is like completely wrong now, because like the problem is you think feminist and you're like a woman who wants men to die, versus feminists not. It's just want equal rights. But the problem is there's actually like feminists and then the ones that are like so hard fucking core that have got, oh, this is the way I can get my frustration out of men. Just like the red pill with men. I fucking hate women, Joe, because they're not pulling women, they're not happy in their life, they're not attracting anyone. So it's like all women are cunts. And it's the exact same with the women's side. The ones that are so far that way have got treated like shit by 1, 2, 3 men because of, and the thing is, you allow a person to treat you like that or whatever's happened in your life, or whatever it is. And the worst part is that ruins the actual movement, because now the people that aren't even that far left, that were like, we just want equal rights. It's like, no, we don't need it to go this far. You have taken this way too far, and that's just typical the lunatics on both sides. And that's what the minority
extremists.
And the problem is that's what the entire movement ends up about. And that's why like that movement's went too far almost.
And that type of movement it obviously started. You had all the Me Too stuff, and then it started to get into like the trans rights and things like that. And then that's when the likes of people like J.K. Rowling started speaking out, being like, well, I'm a feminist, but I don't agree with any of this. And then the far left comes and attacks her because you're like, well, if you're not with us, you're against us. And she's like, well, no. And then your girl like Riley Gaines, the swimmer that lost out to the trans swimmer and stuff in the call,
it's fucking hacked.
Do you know what I mean? So that was completely hacked. But the pendulum always swings both ways. And it's interesting to see, I know you're not a big politics guy, but it'll be interesting to see in the election this year, because normally when a pendulum swings so far one way, it has to recorrect, which means it goes the other way. So in theory, if either the pendulum will swing back, Trump will win in November, he'll try and put a few things right.
If I had to put money on, I'd put money on Trump.
Well, I would put money on Trump too, but you just don't know, because it could, people could still be like, nah, I really don't like Trump, so let's vote Kamala in. But she actually said in an interview the other day, she was like, I don't think the world's woke enough. She was like, we need to get more woke. And it's like, and I'm like, how far does the pendulum go? Like fucking like this,
It's gonna be like a roller coaster.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Holy fuck!
It's like, no, nobody's allowed a dick.
Yeah.
so cut them all off. So yeah, you just don't know where that shit's gonna go, but who knows? But that's already happened in the UK, because obviously Tories were in for 12, 15 years, whatever it was, and then the UK went, we had enough of that. We've had enough of the right, now we're gonna swing left. So it just goes swings and roundabouts. So let's circle back. We went a wee bit off course there, so which is the way I love it to go. Yeah. Let's go back to fire service stuff. So whenever you were leaving uni, you'd applied for the fire service because that's something you obviously really wanted to do.
I actually no.
No?
I don't know if you know this. So I actually applied. I'm allowed to say this now. I applied because my friend wanted to get in the fire service, and I said I would apply and do the questions before him and then give him the answers. So, but he fell out in the second round.
Right.
So he was like, we don't need to do the tests at the same time. So he done the online tests and he failed the first. He passed first. I passed first. He failed second. I passed third.
Right.
Second and third. And I was like, well, I'm already 3 steps in. I was like, I'll just go through it and see how it goes. Do you know what? Being a firefighter wouldn't be too bad. And then I went the full way through the process and got straight through the interviews. And then when I got through the interviews, I was like, you know what? I really want this. And then I was in Greece, and sure, I flew home for the interview and all. That's how I ended up getting the job.
Yeah.
But like that. Sorry, that's another tangent. But yeah, I didn't really want it.
Yeah.
But then I wanted it at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it is one of those things that, like, if you go through that whole process, then you're like, fuck it, no, I want to like see it through.
You want it more as you go.
You want it more as you go.
Especially if the numbers whittle. There was like 8,000 applied, and I got in the top 29. You're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and then you're like it's almost an achievement, because you're like, well, it is an achievement. It's like, well, I've been fucking selected to do this.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean? So there's maybe something to be said later for, like, that's like a marketing tactic as well. It's like whenever you make it scarce, you make it seem like you're being selected for this. People are like, ooh, yeah, no, like I really want it now. So
it's where the role is seen. Like, it's seen as like a pillar of community. Like, I've never been looked at better than whenever I used to tell people I was a firefighter in person. They're like, holy fuck, like, they roll out the red carpet, they give me free coffees and all. Like, it's fucking hectic. Like, but yeah, sorry, continue on what point you. So go back to the fire service. That was when I got in.
Yeah, so you went through fire service. You were obviously doing a wee bit of coaching on the side. You'd already done your exercise degree, so fitness was already there, a big part of your life. What was the pivot moment for you to go, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm going to do online coaching? No, online coaching. When did you pivot out? What was the moment for you in firefighting that you just went, fuck this, I'm going to be an online coach full time?
About 2 years went by, and I realized, like, every day I was starting to rotate into the same day, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that in routine. Yeah. And I hit a stage where, like, both things were getting pretty busy. Like, we were getting a lot of fire calls, and then I was getting a lot of coaching clients. Then we would quiet down with fire calls, and coaching clients would pick up, and then I was just struggling to balance both.
Yeah.
And it was starting to turn into where, like, I had no life. Now, the problem was I enjoyed both things. So then I was like, usually most people don't have that problem, but I was enjoying both things so much that I was struggling to, like, let go of either.
Yeah.
Because there was a stage where I was like, right, do you know what, I'll pack in the fitness and I'll just work the fire service. Then I'd pack in the fire service. And eventually it came down to a stage where I couldn't decide, and I was so melted. And I've said this before, and, like, I remember having, like, a poker chip, and I remember flipping it, or like a coin, and, like, I flipped it, and it was heads and tails, and, like, it was like a weird chip coin. I forget where it was from now, but it was like a weird color. And I flipped it, and it was heads and tails, and I just caught it mid thing, and for head and quit, or stay and quit. And I just literally was like, I caught it, never locked it, and just went straight in the office, like, give me the form to sign. And I was like, just print it out. And he was like, right, dead on. And nobody's ever printed that form,
right?
Like, in a long time.
Yeah.
It's a early resignation form.
Because most people, when they go into the fire service, they do X number of years or life.
It's life. It's always life. Like, it's like you have this job till death.
Yeah.
And then I remember coming home and being like to my ones, like, I've quit. And my ones were like, holy fuck. And they were like, Jesus, mother of Christ. Because I had talks with them before, but they were like, and I was like up and down, but they were like, do you know what, it's a safe job. And so I'd flipped the coin. The main reason I caught the coin and went for it is because I asked myself, in 30 years, where would I be? And I was like, I know exactly where I'll be here. I know I'll be somewhere in either Belfast or Newry firefighting. I'll have I'll have a dog, I'll have 2 kids, that's all fine. And I was like, but I have no clue where this will go. And I was like, I think in 30 years' time, that will eat me more. Even if I've lived a great life, I'll always be like, I wonder what. And like, I talk to my dad and I talk to my granddad, and they always talk about like they sort of do talk about how they wish that I like fucking just went for it. Because then, even if you go for it and it goes tits up in 5 years, like I could always reapply.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Even
you
if
already know the answers.
Yeah, exactly. Get somebody else to play and then take the answers off them. And yeah, so that was the main point, because I was like, it wasn't about the money and it wasn't about the distance, because there wasn't that money in coaching that time. Like, it was good money. Don't get me wrong. But it was at a stage where I was just like, where can it go?
Yeah.
It was like, and the thing is, if you had told me where I am now and what I do, it could go this distance. I would have been like, it can't. Like, you cannot physically live that life, make that amount of money online.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, so it's went, like, I love that question of like, have you ever listened to it? It's like, don't imagine what happens if it fails. Imagine if it went better than you could even imagine, because that's literally what happened to me.
Yeah.
Which is fucking hectic. Like, but it's class. Like,
Yeah.
That was the main point. It was like, I'm gonna eat myself in 30 years for this.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of similar to how I've always like lived my life with decisions as well. I've always went like backed myself 100%. I've always been like, yeah, I think I can fucking do this. Like, whenever, like, prior to meeting you, when I moved out to Dubai, like, I went out for a sales job out there, got sold like the fucking dream. They were like, oh, you know, you come in, you know, most guys are earning like 100K a year, which when I was 23 is a fucking lot of money. And it goes, and our highest earners doing 500K, and like the big guys are doing like $1 million a year and stuff. And I just remember being on that call, being like, I'm gonna do $1 million a year.
Yeah.
I was like, didn't even like lack any confidence in that whatsoever. I was just like, I'm fucking class, and I'm gonna fucking do the big money. I went out there, it didn't work out for me, came home, but like there was never at any point where I went, oh fuck, I wish I hadn't went, because I've never not backed myself. Like, any decision we've ever made in business, we always went, yeah, back to do it. Just it'll work out. Or if it doesn't work out, it's a lesson learned. You can pivot, do something else.
100%. Like, I think it's that case of like, I think self-belief comes by conviction and doing. And the thing is, a lot of people will be like, I don't believe I can be the top earner. But the thing is, you just have to take each step as it comes. Like, for me, I'm just like, just take one step. And like, if it goes well, then you're fucking laughing. But if it goes tits up, then, as you said, it's just like, at least that's been explored.
Yeah.
You tried it to like the best. You've been like, I actually just don't like this, or it's not. And you can then fully go into another thing a lot more convinced. It's like a lot of people who never go traveling or never go live in Australia or they always go married, and then they go, you should go traveling when you're younger, because I didn't and I regret it. Whereas I'm like, I know loads of people who go to Australia 3 months in and they go, I fucking don't like this. And they come home and then that is out.
It's done.
Yeah. Like,
you've had it. You've tasted it. You've went, not for me.
Exactly. Like, I've been away traveling everywhere, and like, it's great. Don't get me wrong, and I do love it. But it's like, there's time periods where I'm like, I'd be happy enough at home. It makes no odds to me now. So it's out of the system.
Yeah.
It's
when you don't get out of your system. It's like I was even talking to my mum about it yesterday, because like, obviously I'm moving out to the States full time, and like, some family members are not necessarily guilt trip me, but they're a wee bit like, oh, you know, we're really gonna miss you and blah 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 blah. I wish you weren't going and all this type of stuff. And like, my mum like had to sit them down and be like he might go for 2 years and be like, I've had enough of this, and he comes home. 100%. But if he doesn't get out of his system now, you keep guilt tripping him into staying. He stays here for another 10 years. You know, he ends up maybe he meets somebody here and gets married. Maybe he's fucking still single 10 years later, and then he's just gonna resent you forever for guilting him into staying, and he'd not be happy. Whereas if he gets out of his system, he either loves it and he stays forever, or he doesn't love it and he comes back. You know. So
one thing I want to note on for the listeners is he said maybe single. It's definitely going to be.
I would say here it is.
Just wanted to nitpick that, like. So yeah, no, I think that's bang on. But it's that thought process of like, people look at every decision like it's permanent.
Yeah.
I look at this whenever I'm taking something. I'm like, I'm going to launch this and give it 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and then I'll review. I'm going to move to X country. And yes, it might be a year visa, but I'm going to do 3 months. And whenever you break it down, you're like, 3 months is none. I can feel it out. Like, if you don't like me, you just
move will know it within 3 months.
You just move back.
Like, I knew it whenever I went to Dubai. Within, probably, to be fair, the day I landed, I fucking was like, I'm not getting a good vibe about this. But within 2 months, I was like, I'm really not liking this. And then by the end of 4 months, I just went, I'm fucking out of here.
I think a lot of the time the problem with people too is, and I've been really guilty of this, and I'm sure a lot of people are, they like to pass the buck of decisions. So I've done this a lot of times. So like, you'll hear this, and it's like a case of like, you have a choice when to be a man. So and this goes for ladies too, but the choice to be a man is you either have the decision to stay a child forever and go to other people for advice and to make your decisions for you, or you realize and become a man on that same day that nobody knows better or more than you on the decision you need to make for you, because they're just making an estimated guess exactly like you.
Yeah.
So you just increasing the speed that you make that decision will increase probably the rate you make mistakes, but also succeed as well. And then the beauty is you get feedback quicker, and feedback is what makes you better at it. Because you'd be like, I used this thought process last time. This is what went wrong. I will learn and then move forward. Whereas a lot of the time I used to be like, I'm not sure about this. I'll go to you for advice. I'll go to my mum for advice. I'll go to him for advice. And once I get 3 or 4 people around the same thing, I'm like, well, technically, I'm not telling me to do this. So, like, I'm taking on other people's words. And that's because you lack self-belief in your own decision-making process. And that is weak as fuck. Whereas if you make the decision, you go, well, I fucked that up. It's because you have to take responsibility for it. You can't go, oh, well, like, my mum sort of advised me on, or my dad or my best friend said it was, like, it's because you take the weight off you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the reason, like, I flipped the coin, is because I was sick of going to people and getting nowhere. And you always get nowhere. Yeah. You ask 30 other people, you need to sit with pen and paper and map it out and be like, pros, cons. And the worst case scenario with every decision is, you probably end up in the exact same position you are anyway. I spunk all my money into fucking some massive house, and it all goes.
Yeah.
I probably end up doing exactly the same day that I'm doing now anyway. People are like, I'm going to be broken. I'm like, my day is going to look the exact same.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I end up living at home. I end up like, what? I'm at home.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think people over-exaggerate like how far the scope goes. Do you have somebody that could literally let you stay on their couch for 2 months while you get a job?
You'll be all right.
Yeah, you're gonna be all right. Like,
Yeah.
And that's the problem. A lot of people get like caught up.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to gamble because where they're seen in the social hierarchy of like, I have a decent job. You know, people think I'm doing okay. Like, are you willing to go to the stage where I was, and where like I had just barely abs. I was like 20 years old, and I was putting up like fitness videos working out with like the 20 kilo dumbbells, and like got t-shirts with my name on. I found them the other day. I had business cards saying TM coach, and I used to give them out. Like, I used to give these out to people in shite shape in the gym. My mates used to take them on nights out. They used to be pissed. I used to be like, right, if I get a sign up, Joe, I'll give you 200 quid of it or whatever. Yeah. And I used to hand these to my friends, and we used to be on nights out and be like, oh yeah, blah blah, talking, and just be like, here, and put a card in people's pocket, in their shirt. And I was like, that's actually embarrassing. Like. But
It's actually kind of genius though.
It's smart, but the thing is, because you wake up the next day, I feel like you're a fat cunt. Yeah. But like, it's
just
when
sitting with the fucking half-eaten cheeseburger beside you, you're like, yeah, I fucking need this guy.
I remember a girl saying to me before, that's embarrassing. Like, remember saying it really, that's a bit embarrassing. You know, like, it's probably not going to really, like, you know, think about that, like, it's a bit...
But how many times have you been told, like, over the last 10 years from you done social media, or somebody, you know, you put something up online, that's embarrassing, that's cringe, that's it, like, whether it is or not, like, you're always going to get that small-minded person, especially where we're from, where it's just like, if you do anything like that, it's embarrassing, it's cringe, it's whatever. Like, hear that a million times.
100%. It's not even that. I think it's also the connotation. Like, there is some people that do think that, but that's about 1% of the actual people you think. Most people don't give a fuck what you're doing. Yeah. Like, most people don't know what you're doing. You're like, I have 2,000 followers on social media. If I post, they're going to see this.
About
like,
20 people probably
About 20 people are going to see that, and nobody's going to give a fuck anyway. And you're going to have to claw tooth and nail for everything that you get. And it's that case of, in 10 years' time, nobody's going to remember anyway. Yeah. People say, like, on generations, like, most people don't remember what the fuck happened yesterday. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, like, if you ask me, list out my days. So I think people get too caught up in their own head about, like, it's indecision that slows people down. Like, you'll know me. So, like, when me and Stephen run the mentorship together, I would say he is brains, systems, like, the back end. I'm like, let's just go as fast as we fucking can. Like, let's run through a wall. Like, we started doing ad spend, right, in January. And we'll not say specifics, but, like, within, like, a month of it, like, we were making a bit more money. And I was like, let's fucking triple it. Yeah. And Stephen was like, you can't do that. And I was like, let's fucking triple it. Like, and then I remember, like, talking to you, and you were actually like, that's not how ads work. You just gradually increase 20% or something. And I was like, let's do as much as we physically can. Like, let's just go faster. And you were like, that doesn't make, but it's a case of that.
Speed's king.
For me, speed is king, because I learn by feedback. Like, I would rather make 50 mistakes, because by the time you've made that one perfect decision and you've launched your nice post about how you're going to do whatever, your garden shop or your flowers, I've already made 5 businesses that failed, that fucked up, and I'm on to the third. Like, people don't remember I done a car raffle company for charity.
I remember that. Yeah.
Terrible.
I think I did the fucking ads for it.
Yeah. Terrible. Terrible. Absolutely shite. I've done a car raffle company for charity. Anything I do for charity does shit. So, done clothing, don't get me wrong. I made like $5 grand for the hospital. That's great.
Yeah.
Done that car raffle, done shite. Done a mindset company for mental health, like 20% was going to shite. Do something for my own money.
Ding, ding, ding.
Give me the money. I'm like, this makes no. So I've just been like, nobody obviously wants to give to charity.
Nobody wants to give a charity. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but the thing is, nobody remembers that.
Yeah.
They only remember the CM, the fitness,
Yeah.
the things that go well. Like people always be like, oh, about the property and all. I'm like, but you don't remember when I used to get laughed at for putting up images and people used to be writing like, what is this? How is this a workout and all?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a weird sort of thought process when you go into it's like you starting the podcast. Like you get people, some people are like, I don't know about this and Joe, is it gonna work? But the only way you prove them wrong is by sticking at it long. They're not right until you quit. The minute you quit, they're right.
Then,
whereas
100%.
Whereas if you stick through, like the people who used to give me shit about fitness, if I quit 6 years ago,
yeah, they'd have been right.
they are right. And then that reaffirms that thought process to you that you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And that you can't do anything else. Whereas if you get that one win, that's why fitness is so important, because most people can get themselves in shape. You get dedication, you get patience, you get hard work, and then you transfer that to anything else for long enough, and you will always win.
Yeah.
Even if you launch a business and you're shit as fuck at it, but you can just continue doing the reps, rep on rep. Like you do anything for 10 years, you're going to be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, and you're going to get good at it.
That's the problem. Most people think they need to be passionate about it. You don't need to be passionate. You just need to do enough reps that you're good.
That's a good point you made actually about the fitness giving you the dedication, which you can then transfer into other things. Because I remember seeing somebody put a comment in one of our ads being like, oh, why is every ad I see fucking gym bros becoming business coaches and this, that, the other? What the fuck's a gym bro know about business? But like, there is actually a fucking correlation there between guys that get into fitness, they maybe do, you know, like a high-end fitness business, they become good at business, and then they teach business. And it's because they actually have had the dedication, they've been able to do it, they've been able to stick at it long term, they've been able to learn, they've been able to, as you say, put that dedication into other things. So just because someone's was a gym bro or is a gym bro doesn't mean that they can't teach fucking business.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. It's for any skill though. Like if you look at your sales roles or anything you've done, or somebody comes from another role, like if you've worked in a 9-to-5 retail shop your whole life, you're probably going to be very good at social skills, but people don't give you credit for that.
Yeah.
Like they'll be like, but you can hold a conversation with anyone. That is a very good skill to have.
Yeah.
But it's underlooked at. And then the thing is, like people don't relate. Like if you do sales, yes, you're obviously going to be good at getting money, but you're also going to be good at building rapport very fast, getting direct to the point. You're also going to be very cutthroat. You're going to have time limits. You're going to be good at managing your schedule. So there's lots of these skills that people build up. And it's the same with fitness. Like you have to be dedicated. You have to be able to manage your schedule. You have to be able to cook food. You have to be able to, stick to standards, but you become hardworking, patient, disciplined. And see, for me, if you get them three, and that's why if somebody struggles with life in general, I'm like, get yourself in shape. And it's not about getting abs to get yourself the look you want. It's about who you build and the process of that.
Yeah.
That is so much more important, because then say your relationship's on the rocks. You now have hard work, discipline, and patience.
Yeah.
And you've got a good set of skills to bring to the table. Versus if you are a quitter, you've so much self-doubt.
Yeah.
You have all these insecurities because you don't believe in yourself that anything works for you, and you're in a victim mindset rather than responsibility. You're literally crippling yourself from the inside out. And I feel like that's the main reason why. Because I remember in a prior relationship, I remember one of the arguments we had was, you just don't know when to quit. And I was like, yes, I fucking know. Like that's a really good trait. I was like, this should not be a problem. Like, and I was like, because you can work out everything. And I was like, oh well, there's some things you can't. I was like, no. That's not how life works. Like you can work out. And I was like, I would rather die with that belief that like hard work and enough time in the game and patience and working on it will solve most things. That's why I believe like a lot of marriages in the old days, even if they lasted longer,
They just stuck at it.
you have to work at it. You're fucked. 'Cause there's no way out. It's
Yeah.
like if me and you are locked in this room for life, you have to try and make the best of it.
Yeah.
Because you've nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Versus most people are like, oh well, the door's there, so like,
I'm just gonna leave.
yeah, I'm just gonna fuck off because there's nothing.
It's too hard. I don't want to do it
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it leads back to that. Now, don't get me wrong, there is relationships and all, but I think that thought process of relating that to the business, and that's the reason a lot of people that move from fitness into business, I'm always like, the first prerequisite for any business role I have is like, where are your skills coming from? Is it just your power job? Like a lot of people that join us, the first thing I check is like, what's your shape like? Because if you're shapeless, your lack of commitment is going to be an issue with your patience, discipline, and work ethic towards building your own business.
Yeah.
Like that's the first rule of thumb. It's like your closer shows up for doing your sales role and they're in good nick, they're sharp, they're switched on, like Luke, our new friend, like, right? And like, you're like, he's a shark. As soon as we seen him, we were like, this dude's a shark. Like he would actually he could close for anyone. And we hadn't even spoke to him. You're just like, shark.
Yeah.
Straight
Based.
away. Yeah, exactly. Because the standard.
Yeah.
Even the way he drew everything. And it's like, that overflows from shape as well, or other things. But I think that's a key pivotal thing that most people can realize, apart from obviously getting your health, better sleep, all them things.
You'd said earlier about, which I thought was like, I don't know if analogy is the right word, but it was great anyway, about, being an actual man and making decisions yourself and, not asking everybody else for advice and backing yourself. Do you think, because I think this, do you think today, right now in society, there's a lack of real men?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
They're all like, it's absolutely, yeah. Do you know what? I actually love it because what it does is it makes it so much easier to be cream.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying I am cream. I'm just saying, like, for example, like, I chat to, and most men will read this, like, I chat to a woman now, right? And I'm single, I'm turning 30, and I have a good business, I'm in good shape. I'm not, like, I'll be blunt, like, I'm not a great looking lad. Like, I'm small. Like, I've got lots of things that people will be like, go against you. But it's like, when you've got certain things in order that you can get in order,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, this is great, because they're like, oh yeah, who I've dated has been losers. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, well, like, they don't do anything. Like, they don't exercise, they just work and there's nothing else. And it's like, no ambition, no drive, no, like, they don't even work on themselves. Like, that seems to be a big thing as well. It's like,
People don't work on themselves.
They don't, it doesn't even matter if you have a job or you have ambition. It seems to be the case of like, are you willing to be like, this doesn't feel right, I'll work on it, rather than being like, I'm depressed and there's nothing I can do. I understand there's chemical imbalances and all that, but you get my line with it. And I feel like there is that lack of like masculine trait now, and there's a lot of females picking up the masculine traits, and then that's why like it's very interesting, because like I would naturally be attracted to like more women that would have a bit of fucking something about them to show a bit of masculine traits, not a mustache.
Or cock.
Yeah, ideally no cock, that'd be great. That's a bonus. Mustache is first, cock second. And pretty much it's one of the things where they will only ever settle into like the feminine role once you are strong enough to handle. Versus, that's why you see relationships now where women just wear the boots. It shouldn't be the boots. It should be 50-50, you know, whatever. But a case of like, they will just completely run right over that man. And then people wonder, like, they go, like, I talk to women, like, and it's like one of the things, I do talk to women. And
from time to time.
Time to time. Tinder, Hinge, you know. So, fake relationships, catfish. But like, a lot of the time they're like, whenever I ask people, like, why, whenever I go see that sort of woman, and I go, why did the relationship end? They always go, I just lost attraction. I'm like, because he wasn't the man in the relationship anymore. He didn't pick where you went for dinner. He didn't pay for anything. Even though they're old school traits and people are like, it doesn't have to be like that. I'm fine. But I'm like, is he a mess?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And do you know what? I was like that for a long time. Like, I was like that until I was like 26. Like, I wasn't a man until like that age.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. Like, I'm still a boy. I thought I was like big dick because I was earning a bit of money. But I had so much other shit that I was like, I was going over people for decisions all the time. There's difference in taking counsel and being like, I'm still making the decision. So like, I can ask you a business question because you're going to be pretty in tune. It could be in our business. It's going to affect our business. So taking your consideration in is important. Like, for example, if you're a man, you're married, don't make all the decisions. You have two people in it. Make the decisions based on you, for you. But if it's like, Joe, I'm putting 50 grand into this, probably best to consult your wife. But you get my thought process now. I feel like most people are afraid to make a decision now.
Yeah.
Even in that, it's like, where would you like to go for dinner? Like, they ask the girl, like, it's a case of, right, do you want to go for dinner or do you want to do something fun? There's your two options. You pick, and then I'm just taking you somewhere. Yeah. And like, you give them a little bit of, ooh, and then that's it. Yeah. Sussed. You gave them, and you've taken the fucking reins versus like, what would you like to do? You pussy.
And that's like that's a fucking sales skill right there. Like, that's not just, like, that's an alternative close. It's like, do you want this or do you want this? You know what I mean? And that's why I always fucking hammer, especially in content. It's like, getting good at sales affects you in every aspect of your life. Like, not that you can manipulate people, but like, you can kind of fucking turn people the way you want. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's being able to say to somebody and give them two choices. Do you want this or this? Rather than, as you say, it being like, what do you want to do? Right? Like, it's like, that's a good skill in itself to actually have and get good at. So being a fucking man, having skills like that, conversational skills where you know how to direct a conversation and you know how to get what it is you want, really.
Yeah, I think a lot of people listen to it, even if you don't show like manly traits, you don't have a beard, you don't have a lower muscle, that's not the definition. Like, the definition of man is defined by you and what you see as like, not even a leader or an alpha, I don't love them words, but somebody who just like is in control like of themselves and like isn't led by like their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, or like they're letting somebody else take the reign. Like, you have to show some level of like authority in your own life. And I feel like, as you say with the man thing, it is just lacking in a lot of areas. But like, I don't mind that, because when there's more of that, then you stand out so much more when you do that. So for anybody listening, that's a really good touching point, because like, when you stand at the forefront of that, you just like, people can say blah blah blah. Like, I'm like, I have physical proof, because I'm like, I've never had that level of attention that I get now from the same like, men asking me advice. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm not doing anything different. I'm just being me. And it's the same with like, even though I'm just noticing more coming in and with that flow, and it's like, because I'm actually just acting like how you should whenever you're growing up. Does that make sense? Or like a man. I would don't know, like grown up. I'm still like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I always grew up with, being told, like, you've got to be your own man. You've got to, like, there was very entrepreneurial people in my family, like, very, like, I wouldn't say alpha male, but, like, everybody in my family above me was in sales or some form of, like, it was like, we're the breadwinner, we're out making money, we're getting commission, we're taking control. That was, like, my granddad, my dad, they were all very like that. So, like, being like that wee soft-cocked fucking, snowflake that can't make any decisions was just never ingrained into me,
Do you think, good question for you, right? Should men pay for the first date?
Yeah, I mean, in Northern Ireland, to be fair, a lot of dates that I went on in Northern Ireland, I was always buy the first drink, and then I would go to buy for the second drink, and it's almost like a bit of a test for them to see, are they going to offer to pay, or are they going to go, yeah, thank you, I'll have whatever, because I thought that was always a good character test, where it's like, I'll insist on paying, but it's
she
like,
offers to pay for the second drink. Do you take it, or do you still pay?
I normally let her. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, just be like, yeah. I would normally go, oh, no, it's okay. And then they'll be like, no, because then they get embarrassed. And then I'm like, cool. I'm like, you're actually cool. Like, we can actually get on, we can vibe. Whereas if they're just like, yes, fine, I'll have an espresso martini. I'm like, all right, okay, I'm paying all night then. Do you know what I mean? Whereas America, the culture is very different. Like, the man is paying for everything the first day. It's not even an option. Like, if you were to suggest, well, we'll split the bill, they'd be like, what?
The only reason that I feel that would be different, right, is if the woman approached you and asked you
asked me in a date? Yeah,
technically, whoever asks, in my opinion,
should pay.
Like, if a woman walks up to me and is like, do you want to take me for dinner?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yes, but I'm also like, you're just asking me to pay for your food.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, do you know what I mean? But like, at the same time, for me, like, straight off the bat, like, there's no, it's just like, I am paying for everything on the first date.
Yeah.
I will turn around, like, say, I don't really like dinner, but say, for example, you went for dinner on like the third or fourth date and I offer to pay. I will want to pay, like, even if you offer.
Oh, same. Yeah.
But I think as a woman, it's a good idea, and it's also a good test, like, at the first date too, even for her, because I think what people get mixed up all the time is, yes, a third should be like how attracted are you to this person. Third is qualifying.
Yeah.
And then the other third is just like general flow and flirting. Flirting, like attraction, all there, but it's probably more so a case of that, like flirting, normal date. Can you actually get along with this person?
Yeah.
Is there deeper levels? And then that third of like, I'm actually qualifying to see, do your values align with mine? So like that case of like, right, I'm gonna buy dinner, and I usually notice like a lot of the women will be like, right, well, if it's like third, fourth date, right, well, I'm gonna get the drink, and it's like, I'm gonna get the first drink after, because the dinner's obviously substantial there or whatever the fuck, and I'm like, no, I'm still getting it, but I'm like, the initial offer is enough, because most men won't let you pay for it, and that's also a good test for a woman doing it on a man, like, offer to pay for the dinner, and if he says yes and he's asked you out and it's like the second date, you turn around and go no, like, you'd be like, I was joking, you pay for this, you fucker, and bounce out. Like, that's what I would be like if I was a woman. That's just, but I think that's old standards and stuff.
Yeah, well, I always did because I feel like on a first date as well, like, you're, like you said there, you're qualifying them to see, are you gonna have a second date, third date, fourth date, like, you know that. So, like, I went on a lot of fucking dates and like with using Hinge and stuff like that. Like, there was some weeks I was going like 3 a week. So like paying paying for the entire first date, like for 3 a week, was like fucking getting expensive. So I would let them pay the second drink. But if it goes to a second date and I'm like, I like this girl arrested, and yes, I'm paying for everything. But on the first date, I was always like, yeah, look, I don't mind. Like, I buy a drink, you buy a drink. I buy a drink, you buy a drink. And then maybe like if I'm really liking her, she goes to buy that. I'm like, no, let me get the rest of them.
People also say it's like, oh, it's the standard you set from the onset, but I also think it's one of them things where, like, in any like relationship I've been in, where if I naturally will just pay for more, then it's almost reciprocated in other ways. Like, you know, for example, like the house will be fucking looked after a bit more, or something basic will be done. You know, like, there's just more consideration on another front. Or, you know, something's looked at and you're like, well, it's just like, for me, it's like, money doesn't really, like, I sound like a fucking egotistical prick. Like, money doesn't really matter for me. So it's a case of like, if I have excess of money and you don't,
then you're gonna pay more.
Then I'm gonna pay more, because my percentage is. But on top of that, it's like, well, you're probably just maybe more caring. Like, you maybe remember people's birthdays and stuff, so you sort shit like that, you organize the trips, and I'll fucking. It sounds so small, but like they're balanced.
It just has to be. There has to be some kind of reciprocation in another way. So it's like, if you're doing the finances, how do they reciprocate in another way? Like you said, there may be, without it being a cliche for a woman, doing the dishes, they're keeping the house clean, they're going to look after your kids if you have kids, all those type of things. So it's fine for you to pay for everything, as long as there's some. It'd be different if you
Vice
just got,
versa.
yeah.
If the woman pays for everything, like, and the man stays home and does, like, make sure that, like, whereas if you're a woman and you're paying, and say you're married and there's 2 kids and the husband earns half your wage, like, he should be either get a nanny or he should stay at home.
Yeah.
And then as a result of that, if you're paying for everything now, like, you're not ideally your dinner spirit. Like, he should sort meal prep. He should make sure the house is running smooth. Drop the kids off to school. Like, common sense. But whenever you set the opposite around, people can get very like, oh, that's fucking women's. I'm just like, no, it's just naturally like if one person's at fucking work, the other person's sorting the normal shit.
Like if your wife's a fucking lawyer and you're fucking
my
doing
mum
the bags at Tesco. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. My mum and dad's the exact same. So my house ran typical like housewife person went out to work. But if my mum was earning more, it just would have flipped. It wouldn't have been any different. Like, and that was it. And it would have been like, oh, but there's such a fucking thing in it. But yeah, I think the man thing, there definitely is that lack of like resilience, like in people in general. But I think that's why like being tried and tested younger and having like a shit upbringing, or like not for like my mum and dad, but like I had quite a shit upbringing when I was in schools. Like I had a fucking nightmare, and I feel like it was a gift because then like I'm like, well, nothing is worse than primary school for me. Like nothing is worse than primary. Like I just remember primary school so poorly. So then I'm like, no matter what's like, I'm not P5. Like I'm just like, and that sounds mental, but for me that was like, people are like, it can't be that. I'm just like, I just remember crying every day on the way to school for like 5 years straight. Yeah. Like every day. Like I just remember being like traumatized going to school. So like I always think like that sounds brutal, and people be like, that can't be fucking true. Like I was like struggle with make friends, social, just hated it. And it was one of the things where like I got picked on, blah blah blah. But it's a case of I'm so glad for it, because then I'm like, it's built me to a stage where I'm like, when I get hate online now or somebody gives me shit, I'm like, I'm like, you're nowhere near as bad as the person that tripped me when I was like 12, or not 12, probably like 9, and broke my arm. Like, I'm like, on purpose, you can't like. But like, it's a case of like, that happened to me like twice in school. Like, I got tripped twice, like, broke my arm, got it healed, and about 6 months later, one of his other mates tripped me again and broke the other arm. I was like, are you fucking serious? But like, when I look back on that, I'm like, are you serious? Like, and it wasn't even like a case of like I was obviously, you know, running and stuff, but you get the point of it. It's like, it builds you. That's why when people are like, oh, you know, woe is me and I've had this, I'm like, it 2 ways, makes you or breaks you. That's why I say whenever I get a client and they come from a breakup, I'm like, 2 things happen here. You're either going so far above that this doesn't even matter anymore, or you're going so down to the shittest depths that she's gonna be like, thank fuck I left that cunt. Yeah. So I'm like, there's 2 ways there. Like, you either go up or you go down. Like, you ain't staying the same. Like,
do you think that with the amount of, you know, coaching, mentorship, self-development, social media channels, things like that, where people can get access to questions and answers like so regularly now, that do you think that has a direct impact, which is causing the problem of the lack of men being able to make their own decisions?
Paralysis by analysis. Like, so like one of the biggest things is listening to a podcast and not taking anything away and implement it. So like, if you listen to this and you don't, like, you'll always hear the Hormozy thing. Like, if you listen to this and you change nothing in your life, you just wasted a complete hour. Yeah. Like, you didn't learn anything. Yeah. You completely mentally procrastinated, like mentally masturbated, because you've listened and not implemented. That's why people be like, but I'm learning because I'm watching all these informational channels on Instagram. And I'm like, no, you're doing fuck all. You're doing fuck all. You're watching quotes of Chris Will. Like, that doesn't give you anything unless you're like, right, I'm going to take that, I'm going to note that, or how can I implement that? And there is certain things I listen to online. Like, there's a quote they say, and I do love it. I bring it into relationships. It's like, unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. And like, he says that all the time in that podcast. And for me, I'm like, I actually do bring that into my actual life, because I'm like, it sticks with me so well as a quote. But like 80 to 90% of the other stuff is just muck. Yeah. Like, it's not muck, it's good value, but it's like, I'm not implementing it. And I think that's one of the main things. There's so much information now that it gets caught. Because if you want to be a coach, you want to build a business, you want to be better at dating, there's enough out there, cheap, like £27 that you could do it, because it's usually just a rep game. Usually all you're paying for is like the fine tuning and the accountability to like really level you up, and somebody who's been there to guide you that bit extra. But I do feel like that is paralysis, like, a lot of the time. Like, a lot of people are stuck in inaction. It's one of the reasons why I move so quick. Like, you'll know, is just go, do it, shoot the shot, go for it, and if it fucks up, it fucks up. But yeah, I do feel like that's the reason like most people struggle to make the decision, because they're too busy trying to make the perfect move. It's like, how do I approach this woman? How do I have a conversation? It's like even I was in the coffee shop like next door in Joxer, right? And it was like last week, and like I was just having the crack with, and like it's just normal conversation, and it's just like, start flirting with anybody around you, and it's just like having a normal conversation. Even if the woman's like 45, like having a bit of a flirt will then build you up to the actions of thing. Whereas if you're like, reps. How do I get better at like chatting to like 30-year-olds? Well, just chatting to a fucking woman is an improvement, but you analysing the perfect way to approach from a distance, the perfect, like, does fuck all. You're better walking over and be like, I don't know what the fuck to say, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And then it could be fun, it could be a mess, but you'll get feedback. You'll be like, that wasn't the right way to do that.
Yeah.
Let's try another 10.
Yeah.
Now, don't approach every woman, but even with the business, if you launch 10 fitness businesses,
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle, you're going to be like, right, well, there's a boy up my way, Daggy Trainer, a really good example, right? He's opened 3 gyms. I'm almost sure it's 3. 2 in the point, and the third one's been a beezer. The first 2 closed. And, like, he's obviously learned the lessons.
Yeah.
Like, the gym's really good now, but it's a case of, I'm not too sure if it's 2 or 1, but the first one didn't go as well. And that's the same as, like, anything that starts. Like, if it doesn't go well, you either pivot, you change, or you go, how do I learn and improve? And that's that's such an easy thing to do. But the problem is most people are afraid to be seen as like, it's gone wrong, or I posted this and it didn't do well, or my video got 800 views, or my podcast got 3 lessons. Shut the fuck up and worry about it in 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
But it's definitely the perception of like what others think rather than them. I think that's the main issue of most people nowadays. It's how am I seen? Because status is such an important thing.
Yeah.
Like how people see you is almost more, it's what people balance their self-worth on now. It's not external. Self-worth is supposed to be internal, and people just give it all external.
Yeah.
Completely. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to bring that back. Like, do you know, if you're a really good looking woman and you've been told beautiful, blah, how do you balance everything if your looks get taken away from you as you age? Or, do you know, if I'm built on muscle and I'm like, as I get smaller and older, like, how do you balance when your self-worth is built on that? And then you have to refine it and be like, it's the hard work, it's the dedication, it's who I built myself into. And that's where it's tricky, I think, because a lot of people are passing their self-worth off.
Yeah. And do you think that stems into, obviously, you get a lot of people now talking about mental health problems, mental health issues, or, you know, especially in like our field of work, like people will be like, oh, I can't do this because of my mental health. And it's like this generic sort of blanket excuse for like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's hard.
Yeah, pretty much. 80% of mental health problems aren't mental health problems. They're you saying, I have issues. Like, for me, there's only been one time where I've been like, I would say I've been not depressed. I've been like, there's difference. Jimmy Carr explains it really well. He says there's depression, there's sadness. Depression is if the problem you had right now got solved. So say you're skint and that's making you really fucking depressed and you won the lotto. Are you still depressed? Because if you are, yes, you can be a millionaire and depressed and you actually are depressed. But if you won the lotto and that solves that problem and all of a sudden you're now happy, you weren't depressed, you were fucking sad because it's situational based. If you're just sad because your girlfriend broke up with you, you don't have depression. If you're sad because you lost your job, like that's sadness. That's not depression. It's like people are getting mixed up what they are, and people will be like, no, but I have depression. I need this drug. I'm like, my mum's bipolar, diagnosed, chemicals in the brain. And some of the people that go on and they're not even diagnosed are like, I have mental health.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't, you just shush.
Yeah.
I have mental health problems. And I'm like, I need to sit you down. If you're my son, I would just fucking smack you. Like, I'd be like, you need to wise up because that's going to work for you and convince yourself like, I have these issues.
Yeah.
But in 10, 20 years, you're going to look back and be like, I actually do have mental health problems now because I've been telling myself for so fucking long you've created that issue. It's like if you constantly tell yourself, I'm a loser, you are going to be a loser. If you constantly tell yourself, do you know what, I'm just depressed, you're going to end up. I think it's just that case of, and people will hate me for it, it's just like, majority of depression is sadness, and it can be solved by getting yourself in better shape, making more money, or getting better at the thing that's actually making you sad.
Yeah.
Now, for example, if your granny passes, your dad dies, like, I completely get you're okay to be depressed or sad for a time period. And that is fine. That will come and go. I think the expectation of always being happy is absolutely ludicrous.
No, you're never going to be happy 24/7.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be happy. It'd just be content. You'd be the same level. Life's going to be highs and lows. That's what makes it good.
Yeah.
But I think it's that thought process that completely ruins people of like, you have a bit of a downward turn and it's like, no, I just have bipolar. No, you're just having shit weeks.
Yeah.
Like I've had months, like you would have seen it. It was probably like 2 years ago now, where I was just in a bad headspace for about 6 to 7 months. And it took me a long time to spin out of it. And then it went and then it came back. And it went and it came back. And that happens. But I'm not like, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I'm
depressed. I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't.
No.
That's not going to get you anywhere. That's like victim mentality. And there is people who, don't get me wrong, I understand if you have some sort of like disease or fatigue syndrome where you actually cannot get out of bed, like you have a chronic, like on the spot. And some people generally are depressed, but I think a lot of people do need to ask themselves, like I remember during that time where I went for a bad breakup, my head was I was like, fuck, I'm actually depressed because I don't want to wake up the next day. Like I was like, I generally don't want to wake up, but I was like, I wasn't, because if the situation had been solved, I would have been happy. I would have been content again. So I was like, I'm not depressed. I'm just sad because I didn't get what I wanted.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It didn't work out how I wanted it. So it's like a very interesting thought process that you need to ask. Like, if this situation was solved, would this lift this? And if it does, you're not depressed. You're just sad and you need to catch a fucking grip and probably work harder or just be smarter about it. Stay patient, get yourself a rep, solve all your problems.
Yeah, a lot of people like to use the mental health card just to get out of anything, but
Do you not think that as well?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I just can't stand it when somebody, the excuse is, oh, mental health, and it's a vague, broad term to get out of doing anything. I'm like, the amount of times I've been tempted to respond to someone and be like, sorry, I don't accept the mental health card, Amex or MasterCard only.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's like exactly. Yeah, 100%. It's the same with like whenever you get that thought process around. Like I get in fitness quite a bit too. It's like I'm really struggling as of late, and it's like so it's not going well. I'm like, but like this doesn't just go on pause. This is just part of your habits, your routines. It's like if I'm running a business and I get a bad month, I'm like, right, it's a bad month. It could be because of income, it could be because of that. But I'm like, you're going to struggle as part of the journey, and not realizing that you have to get through that is going to slow you down substantially, because you learning how to navigate the shit periods is the only part that's important, because it's easy to navigate when you feel good, when you're in shape, when you're in flow. Navigating the parts where you get an injury, navigating the parts where you get a bad month of income, navigating the parts where your girlfriend breaks up with you, whatever it is how you build the character that then builds whatever you're doing, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your business, whether it's who you are. And the problem is by going, here's my card for mental health, you literally lose the process of building that.
Yeah.
And then you wait till you reset in a month or two to kick back in with a different opportunity or idea. And for me, I feel like you lose the development as a male or a female, I prefer to say, like to develop into a man. I think not mental health, but I would have been like, this is just woe is me. You can pass it off with multiple things. It can be mental health. It can be like, there's nothing I can do about this. There's always something you can do about it.
Yeah.
Like there's always something you can take on responsibility. It's like, Joe, if you're like, oh, well, she cheated on me, and it's like, yeah, well, fair enough, like that's on her. But there's certain things you probably done
that made her cheat on you.
That could have made, so you're better taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Be like, that's on me, rather than be like, I know I fucking hate women.
Yeah,
and then it slows down your process. Whereas if you build yourself into a better man, you're just going to naturally attract a better woman then that won't cheat on you, because she's probably a cunt.
Yeah.
And if you're not a cunt and you're a good person, you'll not attract one 9 times out of 10. So if you're attracting cunts, you probably are a cunt. Lesson learned. But yeah, it's an interesting take. I do get it. I think it's one of them things you have to be. There is people who generally have it. Like if I get 10 messages on it, like you might have 2 or 3 or 4 that are real. But do you know what the problem is? It's like that swinging thing we were talking about earlier with the feminists. It's like now that so many have hopped on the bandwagon, people that actually are mentally struggling
don't really get seen, because
I sort of go,
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I'm like, oh fuck me, everybody does this.
Boy who cries.
So
wolf,
that's
do you
shit.
know what I mean? It's like when everybody cries about it, then you start to doubt everybody. You start to go, nah.
Man, it's the same as if I didn't need the disability badge for parking. Like the amount of cunts that be walking around with crutches being like, oh, well, I'm disabled because I can park here.
Yeah.
Because one person gets, they're like, well, I want it.
Yeah.
And you would see that. You would 100% see that.
Yeah.
Like it would be mad. People don't believe that. Like people are like that. If there's an inch for one person, or people go, how do I get that inch?
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel better without them even realizing it, or they attach themselves to that identity, and that's the problem. When you attach yourself to an identity, you then put yourself in this box. Whereas most people don't realize, like, you're multidimensional. Like, I'm not just Tony. I'm not just the wolf. Like, I'm also a son. I'm also a brother. I'm also, Joe, I was going to say a husband, but I don't have a wife. But you get that thought process around, like, you're so... And the problem is people end up being like, well, I'm just this.
Yeah.
You're not just that. You're so many different avenues.
Yeah. So speaking of the wolf, let's get into the wolf now. So we talked about Tony McAleavey. I think one of the things that is so interesting about you from actually knowing you is that people on the outside think that the wolf is who you are, as opposed to being almost like a character. It's like an elevated version of yourself.
Yeah.
So how did the wolf start out? You know, obviously the content thing started a couple of years ago, but it wasn't like you were just you, and then it kind of pivoted into this, like, I'm going into the character, I'm going to this, telling mum jokes, and then eventually it developed into the ooh and all that stuff. So how did that all come about?
Yeah, so the straight way about this is, I always highlight this. Like, people be like, oh, well, like, you're not like that in a podcast. I'm like, you can't be that high energy 24/7. So when you watch this, you'll see, like, parts of it. You'll be like, oh, I can see him fucking amping up now. And you're like that there. So it's like a before set. So it's just me high energy. But like the best way I can explain it is, like, it's not like a show. It's not like that. It's just like, I just take the dial. Like, I'm usually like, say a 5 on an energy. And then if I'm in the gym, I'm a 7. And then if I'm joking around with the family, I'm sitting around an 8 or 10. Like, I'll be making jokes and slagging people and all that carry on. And then all I do is I just crank it to 11. I just crank it up more, because I'm like, I can get loose in front of the camera, and I just try and have as much of a laugh without anything. It's like, you're trying to make jokes to yourself that you find funny, and I'm just throwing it and having a laugh on camera like nobody's there. So it's actually like me with nobody else there at my highest energy, rather than being like, just if I was filming a podcast and I was like, I'm just taking this dead serious, versus like, I'm just gonna make jokes and make this as weird and random as possible. because a lot of my life is generally quite funny. Like I was saying earlier, I was trying to make these chips for like a reel, like a viral cooking reel. Because I would go home and be like, that looks good. I'm going to make that. So I was like, I'm just going to film me making them. And when I was making them, I was like, this is not how these are supposed to turn out. And I was like, roll these as flat as. And I was like, flat as your bum's tits, like, and I just continued, and it's just like, and then it's like, because it's cut short pace to it, looks like I'm going fucking 90.
Yeah.
So it developed like a case of, I was like, the reason it pivoted is because I was like, on content I was trying to come across as like this super professional person, whereas if you've listened to this podcast, you've listened to me in general, I am not professional.
Yeah.
Like in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So me coming across like informative, science-based, I know it all. But me doing that is just not how I would talk. Like when I explained rope ab crunches to somebody in person, I talk about sucking your own cock.
Yeah.
Like that's
I remember when you wrote me a plan for rope ab crunches, you were like, just try and suck your own dick. I'm like, okay, right. That's a good way to remember.
Curling instead of curling to the floor. And people are like, Jesus Christ. But I'm like, I just remember a few stupid jokes. So it's like, that's the way I learned. So then I taught like that. And then I was like, I'm giving this for like this. I'm not going to have authority if I don't talk from like I know this, I know that. And that's probably an insecurity of people being like, you don't know what you're at. Whereas once I got enough results for long enough, and I started to do well, and like I had the property behind me and everything behind me, I was like, I can't really lose now. So I also felt like I got the safety net, which is going to be really difficult for a lot of people, where I could be like, I'm just going to open the fucking hole behind the scenes here of like what I go on like. And that version of me is probably the way I go on after a cup of coffee, when me and like the dog and my sister and my family, or if I have somebody I'm with, like I would joke and play around with.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. And it's like, I would never show people that normally. It's like whenever me and you went to like me and you were in Fiji there, and then I actually had like a couple drinks and got loose, and that's probably the first time you see me in like 2 years actually have any sort of
since Vegas,
like, and even at that, like in Vegas, I still kept it. Whereas that was sort of tame, but it was like you saw more of it. And it's like the levels there. So it started because it was a private family joke because we have a wee dog. It's like a private family joke towards that, and then we were away. I was away for ages, and I always come in the house and like howl at the dog and play around and all there, and I always called it the little wolf. So it's like a joke my ones make towards me, and there's all these fucking jokes about it. And they would have said it for like a year beforehand. And I was away for 12 months, and I literally said it in one reel to my mum. I was like, the reel was edited, and then I just was like, and dropped the big bad wolf a follow and howled, because I would howl at my little dog as a joke. And then it was like a case of, like, as soon as I done that, like I got like 600 wolf emojis under that. Everybody just started messaging me going, I'm going to call you. And I was like, this is intense. And I left it for like 20 videos, then I didn't mention it again. No King of the Jungle, joked around doing all these other things, and people were still commenting the wolf and messaging me wolf. Well, and I was like, this is a private family joke that has got out, and it's like, it's not, people think it's like I name myself it, or like because I'm big and muscular, I want to be known as like the wolf. Like if that had been a family joke where it was like the snail or the slug, that's what I'd be called now. Like I was like, I'm lucky they didn't turn around and call me the mini pom, because that's what my dog is, a miniature pom, or dog, like doggo or something. So I was lucky it was that. And then it sort of got to the stage where then like I was like, right, well, I'm just gonna roll it, because that video done better than 24. So my rule of thumb is if something does better, you lean into it. So I was like, right, I'm gonna come on and say this then. So I came on, I just threw it in at the end, Joe Wolf, and the views started picking up. Because they were like, nobody else is doing this, it's unique, it's you. And I was like, I'm just gonna roll this. And now it's a case of where I don't, like, whenever somebody meets me now, they don't even pronounce me or my first name or second name. It's just, is that the wolf? Wolf. It's just, they just shout it. Like me and Dargan were walking around a random road in Thailand, somebody shouting up the wolf, and I was like, mate, it's Tuesday at 10 a.m. Like I'm going to the gym. Like I'm not exactly psyched. But I think most people know it's just a dial-up version. Anybody that thinks like this is some mad persona I've made up, I cannot hold that for 2 years. Like that is so difficult. Like that is actually just, it's probably a case of most people see me like this, and this is the wolf, and naturally I'm actually in the middle. And I dial up and down. Like I've got a range. I'm not like do you know, like on a fucking MacBook, you've got or your headphones, you've got a range.
Left or right,
I've got a range. Like if me and you're sitting down having a serious talk about business, I'm not like blah, 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 and then making a joke about your mum. Because it's fucking, it's not, it might be funny for a second, but if I continue to do it, you'd be like, this is too much. Versus like, you dial it up. It's like if I'm flirting with somebody and I'm slagging them and I'm joking them, like I might dial it up a bit, but you know where it sits. So, and then I just try and have fun now. I'm like, I don't get to do this anywhere else now. So if I want to swing from the balcony with a megaphone and have a laugh, then who gives a fuck? And if it's fun, if I get a laugh out of it, which you can tell in the reel, it's like I generally laugh now. Like when I play on a megaphone and it says, fuck her right in the pussy really loud in the gym, and people around me are even laughing, I'm laughing. And it's just like enjoyable. So then it's just naturally progressed to that stage where like people do it. And then I've just been like, well, if it's working, people enjoy it, it's not the worst nickname, I'm happy enough for people to roll with. The only people that don't like it is people that think it's one, fake, and two, I made it up for myself, and like that's the sort of case where I pronounce myself, but it's the exact opposite. I actually tried to lean away from it. I started calling myself Jungle King, all these wooden king. I tried to get away from it so I'd be more broad, because I was like, that pigeonholes me.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, no, it's like that nickname in school that you didn't really want.
But
like,
everybody knew who you were.
You everybody know who you are off it. Now if I'm like, oh, I'm Tony Mac, they're like, who? And I'm like, oh, I'm that dude on Instagram that says he's the wolf. And they're like, oh, I know you now. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, don't talk. And then they're like, how'd you get this? And I'm like, do you want to know about my miniature Pomeranian dog?
Yeah.
And how I go in and howl at it because it howls at me. And I was like, that's how the name came. And people are like, oh, what the fuck? And I'm like, yes, I know, bro, I know. But yeah, interesting.
But those people that you said like that hate the wolf and stuff are probably the exact same people that if you were just starting your page out are going to be like, that's cringe, that's embarrassing. Do you know, it's those small-minded people that are just like, nah, don't like that.
Yeah, the thing is as well, like it's just, if I meet 50, 100 people, like I would like 50 people to like me and 50 people to hate me. I don't want a load of people to think, oh, he's all right.
Yeah.
I want you to like me, or I want you to like love or hate me. See, if you don't have love and hate, you're probably not showing your true self. You're probably showing a bit. Like otherwise, like you wouldn't bring up the things about like mental. Like when you talk about the mental health thing, you talk about you talk about women, you talk about being like X, Y, Z. You're gonna naturally push people to one side and push people to the others.
Yeah, you're very, you know, especially those talking points, mental health, politics, fucking trans, whatever. Like you're drawing like a hard line. Like nobody kind of goes, yeah, I kind of agree with that. They're either like, fuck, I don't like that at all, or yeah.
People hate
Finally,
it.
somebody fucking said it.
Yeah, because straight away, like when people ask me about genders and stuff, I'm like, there's two genders. And then people be like, oh,
yeah.
Oh my God. I'm like, well, like, you came out with a cock or you came out with a vagina. Like, yes, you can reassign that. But I'm like, shit gets very confusing. And it's like, people are afraid to say that. Like, if you put that up, like, there's a good chance you can get, like, it can get taken down. Because it's like, this is too much and this is obscene. You're going to get so much hate. But there's a lot of people that are like, I'm not the only person in the world that thinks that.
No.
I'm just one of the only that will probably say it, or there's more that will actually be like, that's what I honestly think. Yeah. And like, maybe I'm uneducated. Maybe I need to open my vision and see, or maybe I need to have something in my life come in that like sort of realm, and then I learn that lesson. But it's just like 100 years ago, if you say something, it's like, that is just what I generally think. So me telling you anything else is just trying to make you feel good.
Yeah.
If you're offended by it, just think I'm small-minded, I'm an idiot or whatever. But I'm just like, that's generally what I've gathered in my thought process about it. But it's like, most people would say, yeah, it's fucking weird, man. But yeah, the wolf thing's just fucking... It's just like it's got out of control. Like it's like oh, this was a joke, and now it's like, well, I'm probably gonna get written. I'm gonna have to get a tattoo or something on my fucking neck. So like,
not the neck tattoo.
Yeah, no. But yeah, no, I'm gonna roll with it because it's like one of them things where like now I see other people trying to connotate with like sayings and names and like they're even like using animals and stuff.
Don't want to set a trend.
Yeah, which is quite interesting because I'm like, this was not meant to be a trend. And then I think that's where it won't catch on. And that's where I think it's cringe because you're actually not doing it. Like, I'm doing it because it's a family joke that's caught on. And now it's like, right, well, that's my name.
Yeah.
It's like, I know people that are called certain things that are funny because of things their granddad done and just rolled down the years. And I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Versus like my story's actually not like, well, I just came up with this name one day for social media.
I thought it was cool.
No, it came up because I rock into the house, bow down in front of my little dog and go, ow! And like the dog does the wee howl back and then I bounce on with it. And that's it. So my dad goes, no wolf today. Like that was the joke.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, oh, there's only the little wolf in the house. I'd be big wolf's here. And I'd run in and make the joke.
Yeah.
And then it just obviously got out of hand. But that's where that all came from. And then it's just, you roll with the punches. Like, I don't really care. Like, if you want to call me whatever you call me, I'd like.
Yeah. So, like, you doing that on social media, I think ties back well as well to whenever you were in the fire service and coaching, because one thing that I see a lot of now is everybody wants everything fast. So they want to go all in on everything, but they're not really willing to, like with your content, just drag things out, see how it goes over the long term. Like, you stayed in the fire service for a long time whilst you were still building your coaching business, whereas
of course
somebody comes in now, you know, maybe they're just starting out or whatever. They're like, right, okay, I'm going to join a mentorship and I want to make 10K a month and I want to do that in 90 days. Whereas it's not realistic. Whereas nobody is willing to like keep their part-time job or full-time job and do it on the side. Nobody's really willing now to, you know, post even content for fucking 90 days, never mind 2-3 years to get to the stage that you did that at. So
yeah, like it's one of the things. It's the problem is like, for me, I was like, well, coaching's not bringing me an income, so the rule of thumb is until it makes me more than my full-time job, I'll not leave, I'll build it on the side, and that will require late nights, that will require weekends. Like, that's how a business is. Like, if you work, I was working 55 hours, like, I'm either pulling nights or I'm pulling weekends because there's no other hours. So, like, otherwise I'm being a fucking idiot. So, like, for me, it's a case of with that, like, I accepted that, and I do highlight this point. Like when I built my business, it's not me being like I'm hardcore. 48 hours in the fire service, the commute as well, so 55. I also worked 16 hours in the beaches over summer managing them. I also had my auntie who had cancer. I was visiting the thing all the time. Like it was such a shit experience. Like, but I would go down to her after shift, go home, train, get up, go to the beaches, come back in for night shift, do my check-ins on the weekends or whatever. And it's like I don't know that why building the business, doing the content in the back end. It's like, how did you do it? And I'm like, because everything else got sacrificed. My social life went absolutely zero. I lost all my friends, but I was like, I'm okay with that because that's like long term. If they are my friends, they'll be there in 3 years. As much as people are like, oh, I don't know with that. I'm like, that's okay. Well, that's the trade-off I'm willing to make because otherwise in 3 years' time, somebody else is going to do this. I'm going to fucking eat myself because there's two things I'll tell myself. Either a lie, they got lucky, oh, do you know, it just didn't work. Or two, I'll know the truth and know that I didn't really go all in and somebody just outworked me and that would fucking eat me alive. So that for me is the hardest thing because I sort of thrive myself on like, I don't quit, I work hard. Like that's what I build myself on. So I think it is that thought process of like quick wins that kills people because the problem is they don't focus on enjoying the feedback and just getting slowly better. Like in the gym, it's like I get like a real sense of reward whenever I do 10 reps of 120 kilos on the bench. And then the next week I go up 1 rep. I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yes. And it's like over the long haul. And that's why I always relate everything back to the gym. It's a long, steady process. And building a business, like anything you start, like realistically look at it and go, I'm going to go all in. I'm willing to dedicate X amount of hours and then be like, how quick is it going to be for me? So, for example, I started Spanish lessons like properly with a tutor like last Monday. And I was like, right, I'm going to do 2 Spanish lessons a week for an hour. And I'm going to do 1 hour by myself on a Thursday. And I was like, 3 hours a week. Probably going to take me at least a year to even get like semi-decent. Maybe if I live in Spain for 3 months, maybe a year to get like conversational. And I was like, probably 2 to be fluent with that pace. And I was like, but like when you say it over a year, you're like, that's realistic.
Yeah.
But like if I was like, I'm going to do 3, I want to be fluent in 3 months, you'd be like, that's going to be tough work.
Yeah.
That's going to be,
that's going to be hard.
That's not going to, like I'm going to pet you and be like, yeah, best luck, but you're fucked. And that's the same. But the problem is then you get abnormalities. Like you get somebody that comes in, and this is where like other mentorships and stuff do it, and they get one that comes in and he goes to like 30K, but he's the 1 out of the 50.
Yeah.
Versus like most people need to realize that like it does just take time. It's like everything. But the thing is, if you're willing to put in the work, patience, dedication, and just sit, you'll get the result. But the thing is, that's why like a lot of the time we're like, we need time with you because sometimes you've got good marketing, good sales, but your results are shit. Or sometimes you're really good results, but you're shit at marketing sales. And you can't learn marketing skills in 3 weeks. It takes time. And the problem is it's the feedback time. So if anybody watches me content, like with posting, the reason I post so much is not because I'm like, let's pollute everybody. It's because the more you post, the more feedback you get. It's like if you're sending 1 video to your coach a day for feedback and I'm sending 2, I learn twice as fast as you. Yeah. Over a year, that adds up. It's the same as like if you only have 5 conversations a day in the gym to close a client and then you go to 10 conversations a day, you're probably going to get more sales. It's just fucking common sense. Because if 5 gets you 1 sale, 10 might get you 2.
Yeah.
Or it might still get you 1, but then you're building connection, you get 1 later down the line. But it's that simple thought process of the fast now will kill you. But the beautiful thing is, and I just keep relating that, is if you're not that if you can see through that fog, like through that, like, and go, well, this is what I want in the long run. So doing anything else is stupid. So I'm just going to commit to this and I'm just going to go all in. Or if I'm not going all in, I'm going 70%. I need to realize it's going to take longer. But that's fine because I'm in. And then when you get through that fog, you also realize there's other people who might initially build a bit more pace, but they're gonna drop off.
Yeah.
They're not gonna last because they're gonna expect too much. And expectations is always what kills. Because people expect it to go as best it can. Everything I launch, I always be like, hope for the best and just be prepared for the worst. And then when you're like, right, well, this is gonna be a slog. Like when I launched my fitness business, it wasn't even a launch. It wasn't even like this big thing. It was like, I guess I'm coaching now and like this is just something I'm gonna do on the side and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I think expectations of how quickly you can grow anything it has to be managed.
Yeah.
Me and you had this conversation recently about it. Anything you do, like even if I have 1 million followers and I launch something, I don't expect it to be like a sellout success. I expect it to be like every business. When you launch it, you might get a little bit at the start and then you just go back into the grind for 2 years. I think anything you do, like the CM now, like our mentorship now, it's really doing well now after like 2 years and 6 months.
Yeah.
I would say first year was like, it took time to build. Second year, we were like, we're getting momentum. And now we're in fucking stride now. Yeah. We're going the distance. But like, without the foundations of the 2 years, and you're constantly learning, you never build that. And that's the same with every business. Like most people who own a restaurant or Joe use that own the podcast studio, it's like the first while doing it, it's like, although you're getting paid and you're trying to build, you're also like learning everything from how to close a sale to this to that. So it's just such a long process because it's not one skill. It's not building a business. It's communication, it's sales, it's delivery, it's scaling, it's staff management. And as you move up income levels, your challenges change. And the problem is you're still trying to solve these problems with the brain you developed for the last problem instead of realizing I need to develop myself so that then I can move forward. And that's the only reason you want to hire a mentor, because they've already been through that so they can speed you the fuck up. Because the problem is if somebody else is, and I don't like to say it's competition, but if somebody else is doing that, they always speed up quicker than you and you get frustrated. Like one of the reasons my content grows so much is because I'm constantly just reinvesting time, money into how to tell better stories, scripting, ideas, anything I can throw money at it to move faster. Because I'm like, when I move faster, I'm going to pass everybody else. Because you're not willing to stick the money in the machine. It's like, I'm willing to back myself and I'm going to pass everybody else because I know. And the bigger the investment, I'm like, great, because less people are going to have the balls to do this. Like when I joined a mentorship when I was in the fire service, it was £8,000 up front.
Yeah.
I was making 1,250 quid take home a month. So like, it was probably a full year, because obviously I had to live. It's probably a full year savings. And I was 20 quid short. My dad gave me the money. And I went down and paid him cash. And I remember giving him £8,000 and not even sweating it. Not even two things. Because I was like to my dad, I was like, yeah, but sure, this is going to make me money back. And I was like, plus, there's nobody my age that's going to be able to fucking give that money and have the balls for that. Like, there's no way. So I was like, even if it's shit, I'm going to work that hard because I've paid that much. It's gonna work out for me.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thought process of like, that's why I love that, because I'm like, when you back yourself that much, it always works. It's like when we were buying cameras, and I'll not melt you, but when we were at cameras, I was like, me and Yip were talking, I was like, right, we're looking to level up. I was like, what would Bumstead use? And he was like, you don't have 26 million followers. And I was like, yeah, but I could. I was like, but I if I want to get there, I need to act like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, what would he do? And he was like, well, he'd probably buy this and that. And I was like, right, what can we take from this? Like, could we go middle ground then? Like, would that be like halfway? And he was like, but that's too extreme. And I was like, good. Because other people won't do that.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
Mine's going to be better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're talking about getting like a 100 kilo dumbbell now, banning it, and putting it out in the street and giving people money to lift it. And I'm like, because most people, one, won't get the dumbbell made, two, won't be able to film that in the main area, be willing to get kicked out, and three, won't be able to turn around to random people in the street and go give you 400 quid to lift this dumbbell.
Yeah.
To video them for content. And the thing is, when you start to play at that level, people are like, well, I can't compete with that. And I'm like, good.
That's what I want.
Because I couldn't compete with that. And then I had to keep doubling down. And that's the frustrating thing. But that's in everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I said this the other week. We were talking about if you're a brand new coach and you're starting off and you're doing what I done, I used to coach people for free. I used to give out cards with my name on it that people used to laugh at. I used to literally ask everybody in the gym, like just have conversations, then follow them up, message them, have the crack with them, just build friendships.
Yeah.
I used to get myself in better and better shape because I was like, well, if I'm better, Nick, that'll help. I used to hire a coach that could help me move forward. But on top of that, I was like, what else can I do? And I remember going around my neighbors and being like, do you want coach for free? And then being like, from you. Like, in other words, like, are you fucking serious? And I'd be like, no, but. And then one of my neighbors did sign up. And I was like, that was worth the 20 knocks.
Yeah.
And the 19 laughs. Because I got one client. I got a result out of it. And I was like, that's what built me. Whereas most people won't look like a dick.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to look like a fucking bell end in front of everyone. Whereas I'm like, who's the bell end now? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like people used to laugh at me for lifting the wee small weights and tan on dumbbells. I'm like, you pay me for coaching now.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, they'll laugh now and you'll laugh in the end, but only if you stick through this shit. And that's the probably tricky thing.
Yeah, the key difference is what people are not willing to do versus what other people are willing to do. Like, I still love whenever somebody would DM you about the mentorship and you'd be like, oh, well, we've got the CM, which is like the fucking mentorship, or we've got Nexus. And they're like, oh, I don't know, which one would you take? And you're like, well,
CM.
I would take the CM. Well, I wouldn't fucking take, why would I wouldn't take the low ticket?
No, if there's ever a lower package, I always take higher. Like,
exactly.
Like anything I'm in, I'm like, what is top tier?
What's the better one? I want the better one.
Yeah, exactly. And some people are like, oh, well, that's not as good. And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, there's going to be more benefits. Like, even if it is, all I have to do is earn your money back. So it's like, if there's...
even if you're not ready, even if you don't feel like you're ready for that level, just fucking back yourself and go into it.
That's the thing.
But the people aren't willing to back themselves these days. People just want the easy. They're like, oh no, I'll take the cheap option. I'll do this. I'll do that.
Balance game.
Even when like I joined the same mentorship as you, that's where we met. Obviously, both joined on the same day. Like, like going into that was fucking insanity. Like that business that I had back then, I fucking backed myself to the hilt. I ended up going like 30 grand in debt because I just kept being like, this is going to work out. This is going to work out. This is going to work. It has to work. It has to work. Fucking credit card until then eventually fucking pivoted into another business and then paid off the fucking credit cards in 3 months because it went so well.
Yeah, but it's I think when you've no way back, or like if you're willing to stick your your livelihood on it, then it will work. The problem is most people won't do that because but I was like, I'd rather go skint and be like, I went for it. I'm not a pussy.
Yeah.
But I'm so psychotic like that. I don't believe everybody is like that. And there's a balance as well. Like there's people who just don't cope well with that. Whereas like I'm the sort of person where like I need like a little bit of a fire under me. Like I need to be like, oh, I feel this. It's like when we pay somebody, I'm like, we're paying somebody for ads right now, and like I have to film ads, and I'm like, we're paying him a large amount of money, so I'm like, them ads are getting filmed. Whereas if we were paying a very low amount, I'd be like,
sure, I'll do it next week.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Like, and it's that sort of case of where that's the problem. It's like the motivation to work a job, actually go to your 9 to 5, is to pay your mortgage because that is the biggest bill you have. Like, think about it. Why do I to keep a roof over my head? Because that is the biggest bill. Whereas if you get a very large bill, you get motivated because you're like, I have to earn this. Like most people, if you turn around and be like, I give you 30 days to make 500 quid randomly doing most people will be able to be like, right, well, what the fuck am I going to do? Spend day planning. You could literally go into the shop, buy stuff for £1 and sell it for £2.
Yeah.
Round doors.
Yeah.
It would take you a lot of doors, but it's like, there's straight away. And it sounds psychotic, but it's like, if there's a will, there's a way. And it's that sort of thought process, I think, is pivotal. But it's a very weird topic whenever you break it down. But I think it's the belief in yourself. And the problem is, you don't have belief in yourself. You get it by doing things like that. Because then you affirm to yourself. You're like, well, why did I take out this payment, or why did I do this? And it's like to show that when I put in the work and I get the win, that can be applied to everything else. And that's the same with fitness. Like once it happened me at fitness, I was like, well, if I pay this, I've got a year. A year is a long time period. If I put in a shift for a year, I'm gonna see the turnaround. Like I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the same with all of it though. Same with the podcast. Like you'll see nothing unless you're consistent with it for time, and you know that.
Yeah.
But then once you know that, it's like, right, well, I just have to be consistent with time and just get better and better and better.
Week after week.
There's a difference with being like consistently shit and being like consistently shit, but looking at
make it better.
Yeah, like what way do I improve this? And that's the thing. It's the same as marriage. Like people wonder like our relationships, and it makes me realize like why things went bad for me before, because I was like, this is just not going well. And I was like, obviously I'm not working on it, you absolute fucking spa. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, be like, right, well, this isn't going well. Why? Do you know, right? So we're not seeing each other. Right, where do we plan that in? How do we, or what way do we move closer? Do we do this? Instead of being like, it's just not, like my business just isn't going well. This isn't, well, what are you doing to improve it? And if you are doing all these things, are they actually good? Like, there's no point in going on a date night with your partner if you're on your phone.
Yeah.
There's no point recording gym content if it's not scripted. It's like all these small things in the preparation then build you for the moment that you can actually move forward with whatever you're doing through the feedback, because you'll get the feedback. It's like it's a weird thought process, but I think it's pivotal for people because it's something I fell down on, and I know I've been like that for a long time period. And even the stuff about reinvesting in yourself, like I didn't realize I'd done that until like later, and you look back and you're like, oh. Because I wonder who else had a conversation around that time point who didn't make the investment and then like don't realize I did. And it's like where you end up. And it's like, I'm not saying I'm in a better place, but financially, like I probably am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that from that side, maybe not personally, maybe not mentally, but maybe not stable. But in case of I've got money.
Yeah.
So
they're married, they got kids.
Yeah,
you know.
they're happy. I've got money. That's all that matters. So it's like, so it's like that. It's like that case of it. So I think it's that balancing game, in my opinion, on it. Is there anything else you want to dive into?
Yeah, let's land the plane. So if you were to go back in time, starting out again, and then try and relate this to like maybe a coach that's starting out right now, is there anything that you would do differently about the journey?
I'd stay on the fire service. It's not Mr. Oh. Honestly, if I was going to, like, I don't like the cop-out. I think a cop-out is turning around to you and being like, I wouldn't change anything because it wouldn't. I think for me, one thing that sounds really odd is I wouldn't change anything with the patience, the hard work, the dedication. I think grinding yourself to a stage where you feel like you're going to burn out, I hate to say this, that's normal. Yeah. If you're not feeling that, you're not going hard enough. So I think that's very difficult. But I think there was a lot of parts where I could have just enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
And I feel like now that I've enjoyed it the last 2 years, everything has moved faster because I feel like I don't dread my days. I build a business around what I want rather than just around money. So I would say making sure you actually enjoy it and you're not just like, if I'm not making more money, this is an improvement in my life, because for me now, yes, I make good money, but I actually enjoy my content. I enjoy our business. I enjoy the events. I enjoy the clients. Like, I'm like, if somebody's melting us, we're like, we don't want you.
Yeah,
Like, I
go away.
generally, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Whereas before, whenever I was younger, I would have been like, money, give me the
money,
client.
I need it, yeah.
Even though I didn't need it.
Yeah.
And it's not worth the hassle. So I think if I could say anything, it would be like, take a breath and then go, and be like, how can I just enjoy the little things a little bit more here? Like, each result be like, yes, one in the bank. Could I slow down? Because what I find is, in business, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think when I slow down, I actually make and live so much better.
Yeah.
Because whenever you just go, like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for speed, but it's like a case of, unless you're taking it slow and steady, you can't actually take it all in and make the right decisions.
Yeah.
That's the reason a lot of people do struggle with that decision process as well, is because, like, you're not actually taking a second to think. Like, before we used to run into fires, or before we used to do anything with cars, it used to be in the back of the van, or in the back of the truck, and people used to go, right, like, we'd arrive and we'd be like, right, take a second. And you just think 30 times clearer. Whereas if you're like, what are you doing, having a breathe in the back of the fire truck? But it's like, I run out and I grab the wrong thing. That is so much time wasted. That's a critical decision. And now I think that's the key. It's like taking time. And I would say the only other thing is, I would have probably invested sooner in everything.
Yeah.
And that's not a pitch. That's just me being straight. I think you move quick by yourself. You move faster together.
Yeah.
In every single time, because you'll always learn.
Yeah.
And the key is actually not a case of avoiding mistakes. It's making as many as you can, as quick as you can, so that you know what not to do. Because that's the only way you learn what to do.
Yeah.
Feedback. So feedback quicker, invest in yourself. And I would say slow down and actually enjoy it, which I think you have nailed really well over the last, like, the while. Like, I think you have a good balance in terms of work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like whereas I worked hard for a long time and probably sacrificed things that I feel I didn't need to now, but other people will argue I probably did for the level I want to go up. But yeah, I think that, like, more, hit the word balance, relaxed approach would actually just make everything flow better, and you would enjoy it more. Not saying work less, saying just enjoy.
Yeah. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I think that's pivotal, but I think it's so tough to do.
Perfect. Anything you want to plug before we wrap things up?
No, I was going to say a
You were
dirty
going to say
joke.
my mom?
I was going to say a dirty joke. Ah! No, that's it. If you want to follow me on socials, it's at Tony McAleavey. You'll find me in IG. Sweet. Pleasure.
All right.
Lock
Thank
and
you,
load.
bro.
Boom.